Hello everyone, welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to the Divine Masculine Messages reading. So this is the messages reading where we're looking for things that they would tell you if they had the opportunity to just kind of get it all out there and there were not going to be any repercussions for having done so. So that's what we're going to look at in this reading. It came up as a result of actually the last couple of days and some of the realization that there were messages that needed to come out. So it will be a general reading as usual for this collective. If it resonates with you, you may want to check out some of the more recent readings, the other ones that are on this channel, because they are all very much connected. And it may be beneficial for you to hear some of those other messages. So we're going to get started by looking at kind of just the energy that's happening around your person. So with it being a Divine Masculine Messages reading, I felt like starting with Divine Masculine Messages would be the right place to, or with Divine Masculine Energy would be the right place to start. I dropped a card there, and let's go ahead and see what wants to come out around that Divine Masculine. So we've got a Seven of Pentacles, a sense of investing, good intentions. This is an idea. There's good intentions here, but I don't know that it gets beyond the intentions stage. Page of Wands in the reverse, sense of sadness, good intentions, a sense of sadness, King of Wands, wanting to make something happen, but it's not necessarily, with the Six of Pentacles in the reverse here, not necessarily something that feels like it's equal give and take for you. So I do feel like here with the King of Wands, there's this sense of just kind of a need to control. And with the Six of Pentacles, a sense of them maybe not giving you everything that you would be putting in. So not giving you the same respect, maybe even that you are giving them. With the Page of Wands, the sadness is kind of part of the reason that you see them not quite being able to deliver. But with the Seven of Pentacles, there is that sense of wanting to do the right thing, wanting to get in, and there's, so this is calling you, wanting to get together, and then for some reason not being able to do it, or calling and wanting to have a conversation and then getting part of the way into the conversation, and then all of a sudden they have to go and they don't get back in touch. You know, it's that kind of energy. It's I'm not going to call it bait and switch exactly. It's more just that they get there and then they can't handle the situation. So there is a need. Okay, it's overwhelming for them, and I see that because with the Six of Swords, it feels like this is energy that isn't calming down for them, isn't giving them an opportunity to reflect. And with the High Priestess, this is an energy of really just needing to keep some degree of secrecy. There's something here where they feel uncomfortable with the amount of vulnerability that is happening, or that they feel like they're about to do. It's almost like they stop it before it starts, with this certain level of vulnerability, but maybe not before you see some element of it first. So there's enough to draw you in, energy that draws you in, even if you're not necessarily having a conversation. This may be somebody that you've been pretty good about being able to give them their space here recently, but for whatever reason, they just keep being on your mind. So we've got the Four of Swords here. They're not looking as healed as maybe they would like. And with the Six of Wands here, though, it is kind of, so we know they've turned some corners here recently. Here's that new perspective that they hold, but the new perspective does not necessarily have them understanding exactly what to do with all of the information that they've learned, or all of the lessons that they've learned. So there we go with that. They're not feeling completely healed because they're not able to use everything they've learned, but they do feel. The reason that it's like that Seven of Pentacles and the Six of Wands have a lot in common. This is kind of the reason that they feel like they can step forward in the first place. But I get the sense here that they, you know, it's very limited. And so that's part of what we're going to be able to maybe take a look at when we get into this center portion. That's more the messages. Over here, we just kind of see the context around those messages, the energy that they are in. So we see that need to retract, which I think fits with what we were seeing yesterday and kind of what we have been seeing, but still that desire to reach out. This feeling of regret, it's kind of counter, it runs counter to this Ace of Wands desire. So the desire has them coming your direction. The Five of Cups has them wanting to kind of retract. This Ace of Wands, though, almost feels a little bit like it sits in reverse, where there's a little bit of a feeling of like a self-destructive sort of energy that comes with this. I don't know. I guess let's see what else comes out, but I feel like there is a little bit of a self-destructive energy along with this desire, or maybe desire that is, they're finding any which way to make it happen. We did see a Five of Swords in there, yeah, right about here, and I think that was, you know, it didn't even have the air of an honorable mention, but it just happens to mean what I'm also feeling here. So this is a situation that is not necessarily destined for a quick and easy result. I feel like this is something where there's a lot of concern, a lot of overthinking, a lot of comparing themselves against you. There's a lot of comparing themselves against you, and I see that here. Sometimes this Eight of Pentacles comes out feeling a little like that because they feel like you have, somehow you're doing a better job with all of this emotion than they are, or than you think you are. You know, there's a feeling that they believe that you have a greater emotional self-mastery over this situation than you might feel like you do, but it makes them feel a little bit intimidated. So it makes them feel like they aren't quite ready to say some of the things that want to come out, which makes sense. And that's the reason that we really have to ask for the messages, because these are things that they may not be able to quite put into words. They're having trouble articulating them, and then they would be having trouble bearing themselves to that level and being that type of vulnerable too, because they're coming your way, you know, almost on faith. Let's get some of those messages. So, okay, we've got the Polaris. This is a delay in them moving your direction. They feel like it's a delay. They feel like it's a setback. There is a sense of faith. I was just saying, and I don't know if I got it all the way out, they're coming your way almost on faith. And they are. They're coming your way almost on faith with a diminished sense of, like, confidence. It's a very loose cannon or going for broke sort of mood to it. Some of them have already arrived, and those who have already arrived have, in some cases, been a little bit careless. They've been a little bit careless. Here's that change in their life, in their lifestyle, and yet they feel like they're being held back. There's that piece of stagnation that they kind of feel, where for them, they feel like it's stagnation and things not moving, but it's really the universe kind of holding them back until they figure something out, you know. We know that they've got a need to let something go and an inability to say what they need to say, partially because they need to make sure that they don't look like they are emotionally out of control. So they've got a lot of change happening. They're feeling like they're experiencing a setback, and they got to make sure that it doesn't look too bad. So that's a big portion of why they aren't able to be more forthcoming. And as we look at the messages, I think that's something that they would lead with here. Just the reason that I can't tell you more is because I'm in a tight spot. I'm in a situation where, you know, we saw that they've got this building pressure. It's really just kind of a high pressure situation, and a feeling that they might need to retract, but they also want to move toward you in order to feel safe because of this bond. So one of the things that they would tell you first and foremost is that they are also experiencing the bond, but there's a lot here that makes them feel uncertain about how to talk about it, how to I guess, even how to function and navigate through it, because it feels like there are some options that they kind of don't have at their disposal that they would like to be able to have. With the Knight of Swords here, there's a lot of a desire to jump out and do something that might amaze or might surprise you. Knight is a card, the Knights are cards of action, and the Swords are cards of communication, intellect. This is them kind of dreaming about being able to let go. And that's kind of what they would tell you. This feels like it's associated with that star. It feels like it's associated a little bit with that setback. And they wish they could tell you more about the nature of the setback and the nature of just kind of how they feel. And they want to be able to control it more. So it's almost like they would like to be able to tell you. And if they didn't like the way that it came out, they would like to have the option to kind of rewind and try and say it again, you know, maybe get it right in a different way and have more control over that. There's a lot. There's a lot of struggle for them. At this time, it feels like there's a lot of struggle for them just kind of in their life. Things that are changing, things that need their attention, that might not be things that are always happening. These are major life events in some cases. You've got changes that are happening within families, changes that are happening within households, businesses, companies, people's jobs, and yet still this desire to do the right thing and to invest in the situation. There's almost like this desire to do so under the cover of darkness, though. Again, I get more of this sense that they want to have like a redo button. They want to be able to have a conversation with you, or to be able to have time with you, and then to be able to hit the redo or maybe the undo, because now part of it is they don't want to have this sense of obligation. There's a feeling of obligation when they reach out, a feeling of obligation when they start to engage with you that makes them feel like they are being smothered under the weight of it. And it's really not fair, because this is something that they're assigning an undue weight to it. With the Ten of Cups, though, what it says is they freeze up. There's something here that and this is something that I think they would like to be able to tell you, and they might even be able to articulate it if they're feeling particularly vulnerable. But they have a tendency to freeze up, and all of a sudden nothing comes out right, or in some cases just nothing comes out. It's like they're using it a lot more, they're having to use a lot more energy with this Five of Wands. That's that energy of struggle than they're comfortable with. They just want to come in and like be a strong other half, somebody who's not worried about things, somebody who is not the person they perceive themselves to be. So they don't feel strong enough. They don't feel like they can do this with just the power that they exude. They feel like they kind of have to come in and strong arm it and make some attempts to control that even they feel like those are cheap attempts. Yeah, the word that comes out is cheap attempts. So they feel like they need to make cheap attempts to control the situation, and that they have to hide reality, not just from themselves, but just kind of in general. There are things they feel like they can't admit, particularly to themselves, but also to you and to others about this bond. They haven't given you the full extent of the emotion that they have for you, because they don't feel like it's a safe thing to do, even if you have created a very safe place for them to do so. There's something about the past that they don't want to repeat. So we see this Six of Cups come out sometimes, talking about not wanting to make the same mistakes of the past, not wanting to repeat the past, and yet we see them looking at the past for almost guidance, or figuring out, well, where do I want to start? You know, that past creates a starting point for them regardless of the situation. And I feel like there is something very deep and strong out of the past that is almost has that air of a misconception or a misunderstanding that creates part of the it's like turned into part of the wall that you see up between the two of you now. So I think maybe we'll get a little bit more into that, like what has caused that wall that causes them to have such a hard time being vulnerable and saying the things that they maybe used to be able to say a little bit more easily. Because here we've got a very touch and go sort of feeling. They have to have a loose cannon, like I said, a going for broke sort of move mood in order to approach you because of the height of this wall and the nature of it. So that's what we're going to look into to go a little bit deeper when we go into the extended. The link for that will be down below if you want to go there. However, first we're going to take a look at what you need to be focused on given the rest of what we see here on this table. So an important part of the reading for you to understand kind of what it is that you need to be focused on. Let's see, I think we got one turned over there. We sure do. And it is real. So Knight of Pentacles in the reverse. It's all about making sure that you're not standing in your own way, making sure that you are able to be cognitively flexible. That's the phrase that wants to come out. To be cognitively flexible when the opportunity presents itself. To be cognitively flexible when it makes sense to be. So when you need to change the way you're thinking about something, you've got to entertain the possibility. So this isn't saying being two-faced or doing something that's disingenuous or against your own values, but it does mean questioning yourself when you come up against something that doesn't necessarily make sense, to determine, well, is this something that I need to, a place in which I need to grow, or is it a place where I need to stand firm, you know? So then we've got both the growth and the standing firm cards that came with it. So we've got the Jupiter card, which is the equivalent of the Emperor in this deck. And then we've got the Eight of Cups, which is the going and searching for it, kind of going and searching for meaning, for happiness, for wish fulfillment, for that Nine of Cups. That's kind of what's happening here. So it's a matter of discernment, and then a matter of going forward powerfully in whichever direction you decide to go. And I think that sometimes it's just not going to be super clear which direction you have to go. But there's also the question of how much do you need to hurry. So let me see what I dropped here. The Hermit card, letting you know that there is a need for you to go into your thinking cave and to do a little bit more of questioning your own wisdom, questioning values that you've kind of just always held to be assumptions almost. There may be a need to go in there and take a look at some things, and not necessarily huge overhauls, but small changes that might need to happen there. With the Chariot, you may be reluctant to do that. This may be a time where you find yourself to be a little bit low energy, and the recommendation is to go in there and jolt yourself with something new. So I keep getting like this, go learn something that you've never considered learning before. Go do something you have not considered doing, because it's going to jolt you into a new place. It's going to cause you to go into the thinking cave. It's going to sharpen your abilities for discernment, and then it's going to allow you to move forward more confidently. So you've got a Seven of Swords here, and honestly, this is not about deception, like people that are around you trying to deceive you. This is you potentially getting in your own way and being your own worst enemy. So we have that card coming out a couple times here. And honestly, it feels like the reason that you are not able to always get where you want to go is because you may be rushing some of the decisions. That's what really wants to come out here. There's something that needs to simmer until it gets to a point where it is ready to change completely. It's reminds me of like when you're cooking quinoa and you have to wait until the seeds come open. It's like that. I mean, it has to simmer until it gets to a point where it's ready to reveal its secrets. There's a situation that is not ready to reveal its secrets simply because you determine that you are ready to learn about it. So your openness to the learning is part of it. With the Seven of Swords, reducing that kind of that wall that you may have against whatever it is, between you and whatever it is you're trying to learn. This is an uncomfortable lesson, but it is one that becomes a lot more comfortable very quickly. I feel like this is not something that remains uncomfortable for a long time, so that puts you in kind of a good place. The one thing I would say, though, is that it may come at you kind of quickly, and as a result, you may decide that you want to try and kind of push your way through it, or control your way through it, basically. One of those situations that something that your person often does, which is to say when they aren't sure what to do, they'll fall back on what has worked in the past. It's very human. It's not like an insult to say that somebody would do this. It just makes sense. You fall back on things that have worked for you in the past, where you're also being told here, you need to discern and make sure that you're not simply doing things that you've done in the past because you've done them before. So there's a need to make decisions, but not necessarily a need to make quick decisions. These decisions don't need to be made as quickly as they need to be made well. So as you're moving forward, really think about things. Think about like your choice of words, your choice of approach, you know, the way that you choose to present yourself. Think about how you want it to come across, how you feel, what like behaviors you feel like it's going to drive in other people, what kind of mood you think it's going to drive in yourself. Think about what kind of day it's going to cause you to have if you do or say something. You know, I mean, these are things that there is a need for you to go back and really kind of consider as you're getting to each decision, thinking clearly about how to do it. It's going to slow you down, but it's also going to get you to a place where you make a lot more sense to yourself a lot more quickly. So one of the things that I really like about this, we've got the 9 of Wands here. It brings out options for you. We see that here with the 7 of Cups. It brings out options for you, but what's really great about it is that you actually have some time to investigate these options. So with the 8 of Wands, it feels like things are coming at you really quickly. But it doesn't actually mean that you have to make a decision more quickly. It's like the concepts are coming at you really quickly, but you still do have some time to think about what your most appropriate path forward is. And when you sit down and think about it and just kind of open yourself up to it and say, yes, I'm going to make a decision, but I'm going to make sure that it's one that I can really stand behind. This is where you start to see yourself blossoming and no longer hiding things from yourself. Because I think this is you moving quickly and hiding things from yourself more than it is making mistakes because you don't have, you know, your values necessarily in the right place. There may be some small questions you need to ask, like I was seeing before. So I'm going to go into the extended now. And like I was saying before, as we look into this, I think that there is not wanting to make a mistake from the past, a wall that they've built up because there are some things that they kind of didn't mention to you early on, and those have gotten bigger and bigger and kind of turned into resistance and turned into this huge wall, turned into a fear that seems like greater than what it was, and this incredible need for secrecy. So that's just kind of in their energy, but so is this sadness. There's a sense of sadness, a sense of regret, a sense of almost like second guessing themselves before they even get to a point where they would be able to say any of these things. And some of it I feel like they would be able to articulate. There's almost an air of apology in here, but it's mixed in with some other things and with some other emotions, and also with that desire to not come across as emotionally weak. And to, you know, there's a lot in ego here too. So we're going to take a closer look at that wall when we get into the extended, and just maybe see what there is that you could do to work around that or to manage it, to navigate the situation on your side. So that's what we'll do when we get in there. The link, like I said, is down below in the description for the video if you want to go there. Otherwise, I will see you again in tomorrow's reading.